Have you ever heard something through the walls? Something that made you stop, made you listen a little closer? I did. And it changed everything. It started subtly. A raised voice. A sharp retort. The kind of argument you might hear from any couple. I'd turn up my TV, try to drown it out. It's their business, right, not mine. But then, the arguments grew louder, sharper. The shouting turned into screaming. And one night, I heard a thud. A sickening, heavy sound that made the floor vibrate. It was followed by a sharp cry, then a choked sob. Silence. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I stood in my living room, frozen, staring at the wall that separated my world from hers. Should I call someone? What if I'm overreacting? What if I make things worse? The questions swirled in my head, a storm of doubt and fear. I told myself it was just a bad fight. I told myself she was fine. I did nothing. This became a pattern. The shouting, the thuds, the crying. Each time, a little piece of me chipped away. I started timing my trips to the laundry room to avoid seeing him in the hallway. His eyes were cold, always shadowed. I'd see her sometimes, a fleeting glimpse as she hurried to her car. She'd wear long sleeves in the middle of summer and sunglasses on cloudy days. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. Every time I saw a new bruise she tried to hide with makeup, my stomach would clench with a guilt so heavy it was hard to breathe. I lived in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety. The sound of a door slamming down the hall would make me jump. I'd hold my breath whenever I heard footsteps approaching her apartment. I was a prisoner in my own home, trapped not by bars, but by my own silence. I was so afraid of getting involved, of the consequences, of him. I reasoned that it was safer to stay out of it. Safer for me. One evening, the screaming was worse than ever before. It was raw and desperate. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was terror. I heard things breaking, glass shattering. Then, a single, piercing scream that was cut off abruptly. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was absolute, deafening, and filled with a dread that was almost physical. This time, I couldn't ignore it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I dialed the emergency number. My voice was a whisper when the operator answered. I gave them the address, the apartment number. I told them I heard a woman screaming. I didn't give my name. I hung up and slid down my wall, my back pressed against the cold drywall, listening. Minutes later, I heard the heavy boots on the stairs, a firm, authoritative knock on her door. Police, open up, I heard his voice, smooth and calm. A complete contrast to the monster I'd heard just moments before. Everything's fine. Officer, just a little disagreement. I heard her voice then, small and shaky. Yes. We're okay. I fell. The police were there for maybe 10 minutes. I heard their polite goodbyes, the click of her door closing, and then their footsteps fading down the stairs. And that was it. He had charmed them. She had protected him. And my anonymous call had done nothing. Worse than nothing. It had proven to me that I was powerless. My one attempt at intervention had failed. The shame burned hotter than the fear. I felt like a coward. The next morning, I saw the paramedics. They carried her out on a stretcher. She was unconscious. Her face was swollen, and there was a bandage wrapped around her head. He walked behind them, his expression a mask of concerned grief. He even nodded at me as they passed. I just stood there, my mouth dry, my body numb. He got in his car and drove away, free. The hospital. That's where she was. I found out from another neighbor, who spoke in hushed tones about the unfortunate accident. An accident. That's what they were calling it. The abuser walked free, playing the part of the worried partner, while his victim fought for her life. And I had been the silent witness. My silence hadn't been neutral. It hadn't kept me safe. It had protected him. It had given him the time and the space to do this. The weight of that realization was crushing. My fear, my desire to not get involved, had made me complicit. I had been the silent neighbor. I had heard everything, and I had said nothing until it was almost too late. I went to the police station that afternoon. My voice didn't shake this time. I told them my name. I told them everything I had heard over the past few months, every scream, every thud, every cry. I gave them dates and times I had jotted down in a notebook I never thought I'd use. I became the voice she couldn't be. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But it was also the only thing that mattered. They arrested him later that week. It turned out my testimony, my willingness to finally break the silence, was the piece they needed. It corroborated the evidence they found at the hospital. The story she was finally able to tell when she woke up. It's easy to think that what happens behind closed doors is none of our business. It's easy to be afraid, to turn up the volume, to look away. But silence isn't a shield. It's a cage. It traps the victim, and it protects the abuser. My biggest regret isn't that I got involved. It's that I waited so long. If you hear something, if you see something, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let your fear make you a bystander. Your voice can be the one that makes a difference. Your call can be the one that saves a life. Breaking the silence is scary, but living with the consequences of that silence is so much worse. Be the neighbor who speaks up, not the one who regrets staying quiet. If you or someone you know is experiencing a similar situation, please know there is help available. You can reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Their number is on the screen. They offer confidential support 24/7. You are not alone, and help is just a phone call away. Thank you for listening.